Welcome back to another video, and in this video we are going to be concluding our core data tutorial mini-series by taking a look at how we can roll back unsaved changes in our managed object context. Now, why might you want to roll back any unsaved changes? Well, you might want to roll back unsaved changes if you, for example, enter invalid data that, say, violates a constraint that you apply, and you want to make sure that only the most up-to-date data in the context gets saved and all that sort of stuff, right? So rolling that back, or if you want to deliberately clear the undo stack, right? The undo manager for core data, so you can't go back to previous versions of something, or all that sort of stuff. There are many reasons why you might want to roll back unsaved changes from your managed object context. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you do that using the rollback method of our NS managed object context. So, what I want you to do is create a method somewhere, wherever you store your methods for your core data stack and managing all that. Create a method for, and I'm calling mine. Okay, let's go into Xcode first. I'm calling mine clear unsaved changes. That way, it's a little bit more clear that what I'm exactly doing here. And the first thing that I have inside of this method is I'm getting the managed object context from my NS persistent container, so we can use that instead of having like container.view context everywhere I need to use it. Okay, and then what we're going to do is, in order to save ourselves from having to do any unnecessary work, we are first going to detect whether or not the managed object context has unsaved changes. The reason why we might want to do it this way is for the same reason that we do it this way for saving. We don't want to do a task when we don't have to. We want to save CPU cycles. So, to do that, we first need if context.hasChanges. So if there are unsaved changes in our context, we can then say context.rollback. And we don't need to call save here. Now, why is that? Well, the reason why we don't need to call save is because when we call rollback, we're already rolling back unsaved changes to the most recent state in which stuff was saved. So there's no reason to call save here. All right. And that's great. But what if we want some kind of visual representation of, what if we want some kind of visual thing to make sure that our rollback is actually working? Well, we can print has changes to the console. So what we'll do is we can say print context.hasChanges before we do the rollback, and then print context.hasChanges after our rollback. So that way we can see when that changes. Now, we just need to call this method where we want to wherever we need to roll back changes. And where we're going to do that is in our SwiftUI application. I'm doing the SwiftUI application because it'll just be a little bit easier to do it that way. But the code that we just wrote here will work in UIKit and AppKit just as well. So right here, I have our alert from the last video when we covered constraints. And after we display our alert, we are going to clear the unsaved changes from the managed object context. Now, where you roll back changes and when you do it is entirely up to you. It depends on how your application is structured and how exactly you want things to work with your core data stack behind the scenes. So I'm not even going to pretend that I'm not even going to pretend to tell you where you should or shouldn't do this, right? It's entirely up to how you want things to work. But in my case here, for this example, I'm going to do this after we display the alert, and we'll say data controller dot clear unsaved changes. Now, of course, we get an error saying, "Hey, you can't find we can't find that method, and we can't find data controller." What I'll do to fix this is I will have environment object var data controller of type data controller, like that. Okay. We can save this and run our code. All right, we can run our code now. And here's our application. We can see that we still have the one contact that we've added previously with it, which is John Doe. And then when we try to add another contact, we get the same alert that we had before because we can't have multiple contacts with the same email address. And we hit OK. But when that alert was summoned, we also, when we go into Xcode and go into our console, we get true because there are unsaved changes before we run our method, before we run our rollback method there. And then afterward, we have false because we rolled back those unsaved changes. All right. And so with that, that is how we roll back unsaved changes in core data. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.